Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to another video. This is a really impromptu video as I wasn't really planning on doing one until Old Trafford on Wednesday night, where I'll be at Manchester United against Newcastle for what is a huge game in the race for European football. But over the weekend there's been a lot of talk and a lot of more intensified speculation over Newcastle making a couple of early signings in the window, and I wanted to just talk through who they are, what they are, why Newcastle are chasing them, and give you a little bit of context from what I know of their interest and what I know of them as players as well. So the first player is obviously Tosin Adarabioyo from Fulham. He's on a free transfer. His contract's expiring. He's not been playing in the Fulham team recently as well because his contract is running out. He's not going to sign a new one at Craven Cottage. 26 years old, 6'5", centre back. Started his career at Manchester City. Has thrived in the last few years at Fulham, I think, both in the Championship and the Premier League. That experience is going to prove vital. But I think really the crucial point of why Newcastle are interested in him goes all the way back to last summer. If you remember, in one of my very first videos, I was talking about transfer updates, and there was a point where Newcastle were chasing a centre half before they were chasing a left back. And they signed Lewis Hall from Chelsea. They were at that point looking more towards a pacey centre half who could transform their centre back pairing. It's been a theme of this season with Newcastle being caught on the counter attack a lot. Their defence lacks mobility even at its strongest. Even last season when Dan Burn was at left back and doing really well, Kieran Trippier was at right back, Sven Botman and Fabian Schär at centre half. They didn't have much pace, and when they were exposed on the very few occasions that they were, they could be got at, and that was an issue that Newcastle tried to look at in the summer, as I mentioned. But they had an issue with FFP or PSR, whatever you want to call it, and opted to get the deal done for Lewis Hall the way they did towards the end of the window. But they did draw up a lot of centre back options like Edmund Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen, who's obviously had a phenomenal season over in Germany. Jean-Claire Todibo, who played in the Seller Cup for Nice. Obviously, those names have been mentioned. They're not on the list anymore because Newcastle have really narrowed down to Tosin, particularly for that berth, and it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Premier League experience, which is something we have mentioned so many times, that Eddie Howe is a massive advocate of. He really likes it. He really likes that ability to just slot in straight away and play immediately. Also, the fact that they're on a free transfer in the PSR situation reflects that as well. Tosin is 6'5", as I mentioned. He's quick. He's very physical. He's very good on the ball as well. You've seen him bring the ball out for Fulham quite a lot under Marco Silva this season. He's looked very comfortable in that regard. So stylistically, he fits the bill perfectly. Crucially, he's also right-footed centre half as well, which means that he slots in next to Sven Botman next season when Botman's fit eventually. That was what Newcastle were chasing. They think they do have to look at a long-term replacement for Fabian Schär, who'll be 33 next season, and a different type of centre half is definitely needed, I think, to create something else in that defence. Because, as I mentioned in a video earlier in the season, that without Joe Linton and Joe Willock, the Newcastle defence, particularly Dan Burn at left back, became a problem because they were exposed in midfield. I think Newcastle need a better way to combat that than just sort of hoping that the midfield can deal with it. Tosin and Lloyd Kelly, who we'll get to in a second, will definitely add more pace and add more mobility to the defence, which is absolutely crucial. So yeah, Tosin is a really interesting character. Good character references from Manchester City as well, and Fulham from the way I've spoken, from the people I've spoken to around him in the background checks I've done on him. But yeah, superb player. On to both Luke Edwards and Craig Hope, who are very obviously respectable Newcastle journalists this weekend. Talks are ongoing, talks are intensifying, and Tosin has been very, very impressed with the ambition and the project at Newcastle. I've advocated for this deal for a long time, even before it was really intensely rumoured. It fits perfectly because of the way he plays, because he's very much of the right ilk of centre half that Newcastle need. It solves a problem with a player at the right age, 26, Premier League experience, on a free transfer, and you can get it done early. And it's very similar for Lloyd Kelly, another 6'3" player, plays centre half and left back as well. So another option, versatile option, who can come in for Dan Burn, bridge the gap between Burn and Lewis Hall, who probably still isn't ready to play every week for Newcastle at the very highest level. He's still going to be 19, 20 next season. So this is a good way to bridge the gap. He'll play in a very similar role in that he can go into the back three when Newcastle attack in the same way that Kieran Trippier did it. I did break down Newcastle's approach to their attacking with their defence, if you like, in a video earlier this season. I'll put the link in the description. It explains how Dan Burn got exposed without Joe Linton and Joe Willock. I'll put that link in the description below. But Lloyd Kelly will do a very similar job for Newcastle if he comes in to Dan Burn, I think, but he'll be more mobile, more able to deal with the transitions and play on the turn. Same with Tosin as well. Newcastle will not be exposed by spacing behind and the transition as much. I think that really does go into a huge reason why they are looking to get both these deals done quickly. It makes a lot of sense that they're both standout performance for their club. They need to step up a little bit, but I'm sure they will do that. And I think Newcastle are making smart moves if they can get these two players over the line. Then they can focus more on the more prominent issue, which is probably replacing Miguel, who's likely to leave this summer, and getting a new right midfielder in. That's obviously another issue that Newcastle weren't able to solve last summer. They had to pick and choose their battles in terms of their transfer business. It's coming for a lot of criticism, but now it looks like Newcastle can solve the issues that they couldn't last summer, and one of those is a right midfielder. And if you don't have to spend money on a centre back and a left back, which they are avoiding in terms of transfer fees for Kelly and Tosin, it makes it easier to go out and buy another right midfielder. Goalkeeper is obviously something that's continuously going on as well. We'll get more into that at a later date, but I think right midfielder would be interesting. There's a lot of reasons why Newcastle are chasing these two defensive reinforcements, and they're absolutely the right model, the right fit for Newcastle. And yeah, it's just a bonus that they don't have to spend any transfer fees on them. And I think Tosin specifically will come in and fit like a glove, because it's really important that he plays on the right side of the defence as well, which is something that Newcastle were looking at when they were drawing up the list of Umar Saleh, as well as another player that I mentioned last summer, Tapsoba and Todibo. I watched Todibo play for Nice in the Sella Cup last summer and was quite impressed. But if you're having to spend 35, 40 million on him, possibly more on Tapsoba after the season he's had, then it means a no-brainer to go and sign Tosin, who for me has been superb. He played for Fulham in a crazy game at Sheffield United a few weeks ago, and he did struggle at times to deal with the physicality of Ben Brereton Diaz. The way he brought the ball out in the first half of that game really sort of showed me exactly what he'd bring to Newcastle. The calmness, the ability to dominate possession. It would really transform Newcastle's defensive work and their attacking work as well. And that's something that really shouldn't be ignored. I think there'll be a fantastic couple of signings, a great start to the window. And yeah, this is really positive news. I'll catch you next time from Old Trafford. I spoke directly after the Brighton game where we didn't know the Chelsea result. Chelsea went on to win. Manchester United lost to Arsenal. So a draw is good enough to secure a top 7 finish. I'm sure Newcastle will go all out for the win. Let me know what you think in the comments as well of these two possible signings of Tosin and Lloyd Kelly. I think it would be a really good stage setter for the summer. So drop your thoughts down in the comments, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.